I was able to interview a member of ICE. Now he had his mask up, so some of his words were a bit muffled, but I tried to get everything he said down as exactly as I could. So the first thing I asked him, I said, "Do you know that millions of people all over the country are protesting you and the work you do? How does that make you feel?" And he said, "They should all be locked up. Anyone against us should be arrested." And so I said, "You do realize that recent polls show that over 70% of Americans do not believe in what your agency is doing?" And he said, "Yes. All those bitches won't sleep with me anyway. At least if they're behind bars, they'll be powerless and I can have my way with them." So I said, "The nonchalant way you are talking about SA makes me think you've done it before." And he said, "There's no such thing. The Bible says that all women belong to men and they have no rights." So then I asked him, out of curiosity, what else does the Bible say? And he told me, "Immigrants and queers are the reason I'm poor and stupid, and once they're all gone, I will be a king." So then I said, "What does your wife or girlfriend think about your controversial opinions and what you do for work?" And he told me, "My wife doesn't talk or move, but she's very hot and she agrees with every single thing I say or do." So I said, "Wacky question. Would you mind doing a quick impression of your wife for me?" And he said, "Sure, she looks like this." Now, I want to get this right. This is what he did. So there you have it. Now, at that point, a bunch of his coworkers were approaching. They were pissed. They had these drawn, and I thought, okay, I have to get a couple more questions through before I leave. And so I said, "Do any of your friends and family approve of what you do?" And he said no. And then I said, "Have you always sort of felt like an outcast and misunderstood?" And he said yes. And then I asked him if he was able to read, and he said barely. Now by that point, his coworkers had approached. These were drawn. I was scared. I took up my bear mace. I sprayed every single one of them in the face, and I hightailed it. I heard pew 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 in the background, but thankfully I escaped. Anyway, this is who ICE is hiring.